And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I'm a big fan of Ticket to Ride, and if you've never played Ticket to Ride before, then I suggest that you go read my review of that before watching this. I'm not actually talking about the base game here, but we're talking about Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries. This is very similar to the original game with some differences, and that's what I'm going to discuss in this video. Now, this game originally came out only in these countries, but there was a bit of an outcry and people really wanted it. So they printed it and it sold out very quickly, and if you can get a copy, I would suggest if you like Ticket to Ride, this is a really good version of it. It's again, some differences, and I can briefly show you one of the differences here. Look at the theme. On the front, you see snow, and you see Santa Claus and a reindeer, or maybe some mimic of Santa Claus or such. If you look at the train cards in the game, you'll see that there's snow on them, and it kind of gives the whole game this wintry feel, and I like that. It doesn't really do anything much, but it's a nice addition to the game. Now, it's important to note that this is a game for 2 to 3 players only. It does not support up to 5 players like the regular Ticket to Ride game does. It comes with 3 colors of trains, white, black, and purple. Woohoo! You know, and so that's a nice thing. And, you know, if you want more players, this isn't for you. But if you want 2 to 3 players and you want kind of a cutthroat game, this is an excellent map. Speaking of the map, let's take a look at that. Here's the map. And this map basically is long. I have it turned sideways so you can see a good portion of it, but it is Scandinavia, and from here's the top all the way down to the bottom. And there's a few features I want to point out. One is right here, and this is a 9-train route. That's pretty impressive. You know, it gives you 27 points. Tempting one to do. Doesn't really connect to anything very important, but hey, 27 points is something that's going to be difficult to pass up. Also, on several spots throughout the map, and you can see one right here in the corner, are ferries. These are routes that have locomotives printed on them, and if they are there, you must use a wild card for each locomotive printed there. So if there's 1 locomotive printed there, then you need to use just 1, but if there's 2, you need to use 2, so on and so forth. And then all across the map are tunnels. You can see some here at the bottom, and tunnels are, you have to draw 3 cards whenever you're building there. If the cards that you draw match the color that you're trying to build, or if they're a wild card, then you have to play that many more cards of that color in addition to the amount that you normally need. That was introduced, both tunnels and ferries were introduced in Ticket to Ride Europe. Now, let's talk a little bit about the game and some of the features of the game, which are very interesting. First of all is this card right here, the wild card. Now, normally in these games, when you have the cards face up on the table and you're drawing them, if you draw a face-up locomotive, then it counts as 2 cards. In this version, it only counts as 1. Well, that's great. Always take them, right? Well, you can only use these locomotives when you are building a ferry route or a tunnel route. On other routes, you cannot use them. That actually changes the game in some very interesting ways. First of all, if I'm trying to get 4 green, I can't depend on wilds. I need 4 green. And so it makes some of these regular routes that much harder to do. At the same time, don't think that these aren't nearly as important because you need them for the ferries, and they're very useful when it comes to locomotives. Another interesting rule, which I think is only in this game, is concerning that 9-length route. Now, that's a difficult thing to do, especially since you can't use wilds. So there's a special rule for it that says you can use 3 cards of 1 color to count as 1 color of that route. So, for example, I need 9, so I have 7 black cards in my hand. I can then play 3 reds as my 8th black card and 3 oranges as my 9th black card. Or I could even play 3 wilds as one of my cards. That is a lot of cards for that route. Is it worth it? I don't know. I haven't yet seen, you know, you build that route, you think, oh, we're going to win now, 27 points. It doesn't seem to happen very often. There's lots of tickets in the game, and the tickets show you different spots, and they show you in the map. And because it's the Nordic countries, I'm constantly having to look at all these cities. I don't know these cities at all. I know a few of the capitals from history class, but I was constantly looking at the cards saying, okay, what city connects to which? And that's not necessarily a problem. They show you the cities on the map, but man, it was certainly a learning lesson for me about how little I know about this area of the world. But the cards are good. There's no countries in this game. You're simply connecting cities to cities. But because the cities are so interconnected and there's so much going on, you are going to be in competition with the other person or persons. I cannot see how you're going to be able to play a very cooperative game. This game can get very mean very easily. And that's pretty much the extent of the game. There's a 10-point card for whoever gets the most tickets. And again, the wintry theme and a lot of interaction. Doesn't deviate too much from the Ticket to Ride formula, but it's nice to have. Now, note, Switzerland, which I have right here, the Switzerland board and the Switzerland cards and such, when that came out as an expansion. It worked with another Ticket to Ride game. However, this one comes as a complete game in and of itself. And because this one is a 2 to 3 player game, just like Switzerland was, I found that it's easy enough to put Switzerland in this box because there's 5 less trains in these versions, so I don't have to count it out, and I can have both 2 to 3 player games in one box. And that just seemed to work out very well for me. I really enjoyed having that. If you'd like Ticket to Ride Switzerland, this is very similar, although there are some minor differences. There's ferries in this one. There is the lack of countries that Switzerland has. I think this may be the toughest map in existence. I've certainly seen some very wild point swings. I lost one game by 100 points. I've seen another game won by 90 points. And I've seen close games too, but this is a tough map. This is not a map I would introduce beginners to unless they were people who like to be vindictive and get at each other. So, is it good? Yes. Is it the best of the Ticket to Ride games? Well, it depends what you're looking for. I still like the original game the best, but I do like the themology of this one, and I like the very back and forth. If I'm playing a game with my wife, Switzerland or Nordic countries is what I'm looking to do because we really like that back and forth quality. With a larger group of people, this obviously isn't going to work. So is this the one for you? Do you need this if you already own the other 4 Tickets to Rides? Well, that's up to you. But it is different, so don't feel like you're buying the same thing again.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.